If you find a good price on a Mediterranean cruise, it might not be a great deal. Because Mediterranean cruises have some high hidden costs that the typical Caribbean cruiser never encounters. So I'm going to break down the biggest hidden costs you'll face on a Mediterranean cruise and how to get around every single one of them, including the location tax that nobody's talking about. I'm Gary with Optimal Cruising, bringing you the cruise insider information you need to avoid mistakes, save money, and protect yourself so that you can have your best cruise ever. I've been on a lot of Mediterranean cruises in all 4 seasons, and there is a huge difference, especially when it comes to price. If you book a Mediterranean cruise in the summer, you might find a good deal on that cruise. I've found summer cruises in the Mediterranean for between $500 and $600 per person. That is a very good price on the cruise. But if that cruise is during the summer months, everything that you spend on during that cruise at ports of call is going to be heavily inflated. Everything from extra tourist fees, for example, if you're going to Venice, they charge a day pass fee per person just to enter the city. If you're looking to try the authentic local cuisine, say in a country like Italy or Spain or France, those menu prices get inflated by as much as 30% in the summer, especially in the tourist hotspots, which is where these cruises are going. And perhaps the biggest hit to your wallet by doing a Mediterranean cruise in the summer will be the price of any excursions that you book. Because not only is there a big influx of cruisers during the summertime, but the Mediterranean has a huge influx of general tourists coming during the summer. And they're all booking up these tours. They get booked up in advance. You'll have difficulty finding some openings in some cases. And when you do find the opening, that price will be double or triple what that tour charges during the off season when they're never booking up to capacity. But those aren't even the biggest reasons not to book in the summer. I've done Mediterranean cruises from a lot of different ports, but the biggest ones and the most popular ones, probably where you'll be flying in for a Mediterranean cruise, will either be Barcelona, Rome, or Athens. And I've seen ticket prices for flights from the US to these 3 cities in the summertime double what they are in the spring, winter, or fall. Now, this is a general rule and it won't always hold true, but whenever you're booking a Mediterranean cruise, you must check the price of that flight before you book, because you don't want to get locked into a cruise and then find out that the price is twice as much as you thought it would be, and now that good deal you found on that cruise is no longer such a great deal. And then you want to make sure you check out the hotel prices in advance as well, because this is another gotcha for a lot of Mediterranean cruisers. A lot of these hotels in the summertime in big cities like Rome and Barcelona will be double or triple the cost of what they would be in the late fall, winter, or early spring. And a lot of people who do Mediterranean cruises end up booking multiple nights in these hotels because they want a little time to get over the jet lag, or they want a little time to look around and explore that city or the surrounding area before or after the cruise. After all, you are going to Europe. It's totally different than just flying to Miami the night before your cruise. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you book a Mediterranean cruise, how many extra days do you allow to explore Europe before or after the cruise? One thing that really caught me off guard on my first Mediterranean cruise is that a lot of the cities listed on your cruise itinerary are not actually where the ship goes. The port that they dock at could be an hour or 2 away from that city that you really want to go see. So for example, this is the case in Rome. If you have Rome listed on an itinerary, your ship's going to dock in Civitavecchia, which is at least an hour train ride away. You have to allow maybe at least an hour and a half just to be safe. And the same thing is if you're going to Florence, that'll be listed on your itinerary, but the ship's actually docking in Livorno, which again is about an hour and a half away. Also, if your cruise is stopping in Athens, the port for Athens is about 45 minutes away by train. And where this really adds a lot of costs to Mediterranean cruisers is because they feel forced into booking excursions because they're away from the city. They feel that they need somebody, a tour guide, to bring them to the city and then show them around and not worry about anything. And those tours can be very expensive. These aren't Caribbean snorkeling tours that you might get for $60 from a third party. These are tours that are going to be $150 or more per person. The good news is, if you plan ahead, you don't really need to rely on a tour. If you just want to see some sights in Rome or walk around Florence or go and walk around Athens, you can do it completely on your own because the public train systems are so good that they're easy to navigate and you can get on the train right near the cruise port, take the train to the city and do your own thing, and it will save you hundreds of dollars if you do that at these types of ports. But if you prefer to book some sort of excursion because it's easier and you don't have to plan anything out, you could still get a good deal. I'll tell you how to do that next. But speaking of deals, if you're looking to book a cruise, we do maintain a list of the best cruise deals you can book right now. If you'd like a copy, just comment deals or click on the deals link in our description. One thing that kind of surprised me at first was that a lot of the shore excursions in the Mediterranean market tend to be a bit more expensive than what they are in the Caribbean market. Of course, depending on what you're doing and what kind of excursion you want. However, cruise lines typically will charge more than private third-party providers. Not always, but especially during the fall, winter, and spring seasons, you can usually find a good discount on that cruise excursion by booking through an independent provider like Viator or Shore Excursions Group. I've got links to those two companies in my description if you want to check out what they have to offer, but always compare some third-party provider to what your cruise line is offering. Where these excursions are taking you to various historical sites, ruins, places like the Vatican in Rome or the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, they're all pretty much the same tour. The difference is booking with the cruise line tends to be pricier and you'll be in bigger groups with a lot more people. The independent providers usually operate on a smaller scale, which means it's a more personalized experience and most people enjoy it a bit better. Booking through a third-party provider can also save you a ton of money, especially if you're not cruising in the summer. The one thing you want to make sure if you do book with a third-party provider is that they're offering pickup and drop-off at the cruise port. You don't want to be meeting a tour guide in a foreign city you're not familiar with, especially when it might be a place like Rome where you have to get on a train for an hour in order to get there, and that's your responsibility then to get back in time. If they pick you up and drop you off at the cruise port, they take care of everything, all the transport. They'll bring you to where you're going and make sure you make it back to your cruise in time. At some of these ports in the Mediterranean, where the cruise ship docks where the actual city is, but maybe a few miles away in an industrial area. So it's not easy to just walk off the ship and right into the city. So the cruise lines provide a bus for transport for passengers to bring them from that cruise terminal into the city. However, they charge an exorbitant price typically for this. I was on a Mediterranean cruise once that stopped in Marseille, France, and this was the case. It was in a more industrial port area, and you had to go about 2 miles to get to where you could walk into the city. Well, the cruise line had a bus there, which I got on not asking what the price was. They scanned my room card when I got on the bus to charge my onboard account. And when I got back, I found out they charged us 15 euros per person just to take us on this bus about 2 miles to a place where we could walk across the street and into town. And then I found out there was actually a free bus that the city provides that you could just get on for free, and it took you to almost the exact same spot as this 15 euro bus. So when you're going to one of these ports, check out the free bus option. A lot of them have it. You can Google it and you'll find that information. And it might mean that you just have to walk an extra 50 feet to the terminal or the stop where the free bus is instead of just being picked up right at the terminal. But it's not worth spending 15 euros just to get a bus ride for a couple miles into town. One hidden fee that is completely avoidable, that catches a lot of Mediterranean cruisers off guard, is the conversion charge that retailers and even ATM machines in Mediterranean ports want to charge you for converting dollars to euros. If you withdraw cash from an ATM around one of these cruise ports, it's probably going to ask you, after you select how many euros you want, if you want them to convert those euros to dollars and take that amount in dollars out of your account. And a lot of people think, yeah, why not? Because the money in my account is in dollars. But the problem is, what that machine is really asking you is if they can charge you extra for this withdrawal. Because if you select no and just do the withdrawal in euros, yeah, there might be an ATM fee, which in Europe they're kind of high, but a typical ATM fee might be around 4 or 5 euros. But the conversion of those euros to dollars will be done by your bank if you say no. And that will likely be at a much lower exchange rate because these ATMs are programmed to do the exchange at a higher rate. It's a commission that they make off of that. And there's no need for them to do that because your bank back home will give you a more favorable rate. And this applies as well if you're using a credit card at a restaurant or a store or buying anything with a credit card. A lot of times that cashier or waiter will turn that machine around to you to answer the question if you want that charged in euros or dollars. Always say euros. Always use the local currency because then your credit card will do the conversion for you. And in 99% of the cases, your own personal credit card will give you a much more favorable exchange rate. And then your Wi-Fi experience on a Mediterranean cruise may not be what you think. I'll get to that next. But first, if you would take a minute and hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. It helps us grow and you won't miss our next video. After doing a number of Mediterranean cruises, one way that I cut down on some of these hidden costs is by skipping the ship Wi-Fi. Cruise ship Wi-Fi is very expensive. If you buy it ahead of time even, it runs you between $20 and $25 a day depending on the cruise line. However, on Mediterranean cruises, you're usually close to land and in a port every day, except for maybe one sea day if you're doing a week-long cruise. And some week-long cruises, especially ones that are hitting Greece or going around in the Adriatic, they might have 0 sea days, which means almost every day of your cruise, you can get cell service at those local markets. I actually use Saily to do this. They have a Europe Pass, which you can buy whatever data amount that you need, and it'll work in all of these European countries. I put a link in my description. If you use that, they'll give you 15% off. But there are many eSIM options if you need that, or maybe you even have a carrier that already provides coverage in Europe. Regardless, it's useless to spend all that extra money on Wi-Fi when you're going to be connected for a large part of your cruise. And you're probably going to need an eSIM anyway so that you can have connectivity while you're exploring these foreign ports. So skipping the ship Wi-Fi will save you hundreds of dollars. I decided to include this bonus tip in the video because I made a mistake a couple of times that caused me to miss out on some major attractions that I wanted to see on a Mediterranean cruise. And that is not purchasing the tickets well enough in advance. Some of these sites will sell out, especially the Vatican, the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, the Colosseum in Rome, the Acropolis in Athens. So if you've got your mind or your heart set on some of these famous sites, make sure you buy those tickets as soon as you book that cruise. And buy them directly from the authentic site, not a third party. You'll get the best price that way. You'll save some money and you'll lock in your time and date. Because if you don't buy these in advance, you could be locked out. A lot of times they sell out months in advance, and you won't be able to even find a ticket because a lot of third-party companies will buy up blocks of these tickets and sell them as tours. And they'll charge you a whole lot more for that, and it might be your only option if you didn't buy your own tickets well enough in advance. So now that you'll avoid some of the hidden costs on a Mediterranean cruise, smart cruisers use some key strategies to make sure they get the best deal on the cruise. I'll tell you what those are right here.